this one from Connor Orr, I think it's not as crazy as Acho, but it's living in the same ballpark, but not nearly enough people are paying attention to it. Here we go.
If I'm Monken, I'm saying this is just my internal calculus. I've waited this long to get a head coaching job in the NFL. I am 59. This is never happening again. I got to make this work. And so I got this quarterback over here that every team in the NFL passed up for 4 different rounds. Okay. And if I cut him and I let him go, maybe someone will pick him up. But what are the chances that guy has a Saquon Barkley effect on me and makes me look like an idiot for cutting him? Versus, what are the chances that I'm stuck with him? I got to play him at some point. He does something in a game that makes me look stupid, or the Sanders Inc. comes in here and makes me look like right? Like, that's how you kind of got to weigh that if you're Monken, right? I mean, you know.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And if it was Todd Monken making that decision in a vacuum, I think it's a real debate, but I don't think it's Todd Monken making that decision in a vacuum.
And I think that's part of the problem. That's how we get here.
All right, that courtesy of the MMQB. Obviously, the other voice there is Albert Breer. He'll be on with us tomorrow. But, Spencer, the kind of insane part of that clip for myself is the idea that Todd Monken doesn't know what he's getting into right now.
I did think it was interesting that Albert sort of co-signed it. Like, because when Albert says things, it's usually from, like, an informed standpoint, right? Like, he's obviously very well in. He's an insider. That's why you guys have him on. So I thought that part was interesting. But, yeah, like, what is this take? The coach is supposed to come in day one and just be like, I don't want, like when Shedeur's walking down the hall to his office, like, nope, shutting the door, keep him out. I'm not saying it has to be that deliberate, but like, I don't understand how that benefits him. I think coaches at this point understand how much this business is about relationships with players, other coaches, executives in front offices and things. Like, you can't burn that bridge, especially given the state of things right now where you don't have, like, everyone acts like sometimes the Browns have all these options at quarterback. Now, I've been also on the sign the take of they probably are going to add somebody to that room. It might be a veteran that like we've heard of before. It might be somebody a bigger name that's out there in the market right now, like a Malik Willis or a Mac Jones or whatever. But it might just be sort of like an ancillary thing. I'm not saying that like the guys that are there right now is for sure going to be what the room looks like, and then he's not going to at least bring in some other options. But you know, that's all sort of in the spirit of building a roster. Just completely saying when you don't really know what your quarterback situation is going to look like, how it's going to be, what Deshaun Watson is going to look like, if Dylan Gabriel's part of the math on this, like you just got there. You can't just distance yourself from one of the only quarterback options that you have. And frankly, what might be the best quarterback option you have in that room right now?
Well, that's it. Like, you're going to be able to have a full training camp. And if Shedeur ends up being the best bet, that's not a bad thing. That's something that then you're like, all right, let's get after it. But what's interesting to me about this, the whole Monken discussion in general, is that in a weird way, I'm not saying he's getting a Peterlin pass, but I think he will eventually get some sort of pass from a lot of the fans if you fast forward 1 year from now and Shedeur did get to start all these games and it didn't look particularly good. Like no one is suggesting that Monken is going to turn water into wine, so to speak. Like, you're going to, if he makes Shedeur into what Shedeur was projected to be and everything else when we watched him play in college, if he turns him into that, then great. And I still think Shedeur's got a lot of talent. But if he doesn't, because there's so many bad pieces, there's so many everything, people are going to look at Monken and say, whoa. You weren't able to do anything with Shedeur? You must be an idiot. No one's going to say that.
It's really well said. And I think the other part of this, too, is like, this is a year. I know Monken signed a 5-year deal. That's very whatever. Like, Kevin Stefanski signed a 5-year extension. He made it through 2 of those years that he signed the extension for. Like, none of that really matters. Yeah. And plans always deviate based on how things go. And it could be a complete disaster next year, and then maybe Todd Monken's fired. But I would imagine that the Browns made this hire with the idea that they don't envision it going poorly 1 year in, 2 years in, but that they also understand where they're at. The idea here is we're hiring Todd Monken because we need a vision for our offense. And so if that's the goal, you kind of know the score already. You don't have a great quarterback. So give him a year to figure out, like, is Shedeur that guy? Or do I need another option and we're going to start this other player? And if somebody starts over Shedeur, by the way, then you probably have your answer at the end of the season anyway that, like, okay, we don't really think he's going to amount to that guy. But, like, you don't just rip off the Band-Aid now and say, forget this guy, we're done. You let the process play out in a transitional year where you're going to probably have some leeway to see your vision through and sort of figure out what direction you want to take this thing. It just makes no sense to just completely slam the door shut on Shedeur Sanders because of distractions outside or whatever, which, by the way, I think is also overblown. Like Shedeur did nothing but come in here and like sing the praises of his situation and talk about how committed he was to just being good at football. He brought up numerous times that he can't control the outside stuff from people that love him and support him. Like that's all their thing. He tried to sort of pour water on the Kevin Stefanski beef and all that. Like I don't think he's as big of a distraction internally as people make him out to be externally. So the idea that it's like, oh, you can't tie yourself to this guy is just preposterous.
Well, Connor Orr's making it sound as if he's toxic. Like as if like anything that ends up in his orbit just instantly turns to mush and turns to all sorts of bad. Like, when you suggest to like basically disassociate yourself from him and make sure the whole NFL world knows like that's not my guy. I'm not going to be responsible for his lack of success moving forward or anything like that. You're just all you're doing is just chopping down your options. Right. And I think it's just patently dumb.
Well, and by the way, Todd Monken could have. I'm not saying that when Shedeur came to his office in that video that they shared that he was going to be like, we were trying to draft you last year, but I didn't want you. But like he could have said nothing. He could have just said like, nice to meet you. Like and
I wonder if that's what Connor Orr is kind of getting to the idea of like maybe Monken went a little too hard in the paint of support of Shedeur, where if like because like the viewpoint right now after that video, fair or unfair, is the idea that Monken likes Shedeur. And so, like, when people think that they're your guy or that you have a real affinity for him and you really like him, then they all of a sudden have expectations attached to it. And so I do wonder if maybe Connor Orr is like, hey, play it cool, Monken. What you have to be doing here is like, I'm indifferent to what happens with Shedeur, and if he ends up being great because I see it with my own two eyes, then he ends up being great.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting, though, that Todd Monken chose to do the opposite of what Connor Orr is suggesting in that video.
I think he knows. I think Monken knows. Andrew Berry was in the room. Andrew Berry clearly likes Shedeur Sanders, okay? I will go until the day I die believing that Andrew Berry just really likes Shedeur Sanders. He liked him in the draft process. He's liked him throughout the entire stretch that we've at least seen him here in Cleveland. It's just how I think he thinks, okay? And so he knows Andrew Berry's in the room. He just got the job. Like I'm sure there's a part of him to be like, of course I like Shedeur. I'll be buddy with him. Let's do this.
Right. I just feel like for a team that doesn't have a lot of options at quarterback, why would you rule out anything at this point? Like that's
right. And that's the other side of it.
That's the root of the conversation that we're having. Like this entire offseason is like, is it Shedeur? Is it Deshaun trying for the third or fourth time?
Who's going to look at Todd Monken and be like, you failed because you couldn't get Shedeur or Deshaun Watson to have a boatload of success?
I think
no one's going to look at it that way.
I think everybody understands that like if Shedeur starts this year, it's about finding out, okay, what from the good last year can be replicated or can we hone in on that he can do well? And if it's bad, then you know, okay, he's just not our guy, and you can then pivot to that next quarterback.
Monken's almost in a win-win of sorts. No one's going to look at him and say, whoa, you really screwed it up if you don't get Shedeur to be successful.
But if he gets him to be successful.
But if he gets him to be successful, everyone's going to get, like, last year I wanted to give Stefanski no credit if he ended up getting Shedeur to look great. And at certain points, Shedeur did look really good, right? And I wanted to give Stefanski zero credit. I thought the way he handled the whole situation from the quarterback room all the way down to beginning with 4 quarterbacks and thinking Dylan Gabriel was better than Shedeur, I thought it was nonsense. I didn't want to give him any. I'll give Monken a bunch of credit. Like, and that's where Monken wins in this. Shedeur will get a bunch of credit as well. Always. You have to give credit to the players. But he'll get a bunch of credit. And he'll get a lot of, like, kudos from across the league. And then it'll be a very good thing. In many ways, Monken's in a win-win situation.